My name is Megan LaCore from theartofmegan.com, and today we're going to be setting up for jewelry making. It's very important to have a proper setup when you're working with your jewelry supplies so that you can keep your tools organized, you can keep your supplies all in one place, and have an easier time working. It can be a little bit dangerous working with metal pieces, so I want you to make sure that you are well prepared when you start up. So this is what this little setup video is for today. It's a good idea when you're setting up to have a nice open area to work so that you don't have to deal with any clutter. I also prefer to work on a table, even though it's very tempting to sit on the floor and make jewelry for me sometimes. It works out a little bit better if you have an area like this so that you can keep your metal scraps out of the way, and so that if you do drop a bead, it doesn't become instant carpet fodder. I don't know how many times I've been down to precious few beads and I've had to redo my design a little bit just because I lost one of my last few beads. So here we have our basic setup. As you can see, I've got a nice little towel here. I tend to work on a mat most of the time, especially if I'm doing wire work. A towel works perfectly, but you can also find the little micro fleece mats. I like those quite a bit as well. I've got my bead and finding boxes. I really like this type where they've got individual opening containers, and it's especially helpful if they lock, because this area right here will get hit on things in your craft box, or maybe if you set it down too hard it'll pop open, and then you risk losing some of your beads because this has popped open. I've traveled and had beads go everywhere because something popped open while they were in my suitcase or in the car. So I really like this feature. You can see that if I pull up on it, I'm actually putting a little pressure on it and it's not popping open, but you push down on the little bar on this side and lift up, opens right up. I really like these because they help to keep things organized, and you can separate by type of bead, you can separate by color of finding. I've got all of my gold pieces in this one. These are actually gold plated. I've got all sorts of different colors of glass beads in this one. I keep gemstones that are unstrung in another one, and I also keep the rest of my metal findings in separate ones for each color. So silver plated, I have a silver plated one. For copper, I have a whole separate one. I also keep my gold filled and my sterling silver in separate ones. That way I can pull out one whole tray when I'm working with a certain color scheme, and I don't have to worry about anything else. Now let's go ahead and talk about our pliers. I'm just going to set this aside for a moment. This is going to be your basic setup, what you're going to need for the majority of your working situations. Your most common is going to be your Needlenose Pliers. These are just a standard beading plier. They're a very fine tip. I really like a super fine tip on mine. I like having a lot of control. I want them to be able to be very accurate, and this tiny fine tip is very helpful for that. It's also important that they fit your hand comfortably. These fit right into my hand nicely. They have a nice grip up here. They're very comfortable when you're squeezing, and you want to make sure that they sit in this area of your hand and not up onto the bone area. That can actually hurt your joints after a while, and when you're doing a lot of wire working, your hands will tend to get a little sore sometimes. So make sure that the pliers that you're using fit very comfortably in your hand. As you can see, I can hold these with very little grip, and I can squeeze them very easily, and they pop right back open. So that makes it a little bit easier for me as the artist, not having to worry about my hands. We're going to move on to one of the more common next ones, is a flat nose plier. You can see we have a nice wide flat nose on these. This particular pair has one side that's a little bit thinner, one side that's a little bit thicker. Not really sure if they're supposed to be that way, but I use it to my advantage, so it's all good. Those are great for when you're working with two sides of something and you need a second set of pliers. They're also really great to get even bends at a specific length, and they're really great for flattening out loops once you've created them and you need to twist them back closed. I can't really think of a reason why you wouldn't want to have a pair of these at your working station. Next, we have an essential, a really good pair of round nose pliers. You can see these also have a really fine tip. Let me put my finger behind, excuse me, put my hand behind that so you can see it. These have a really fine tip. They've also got the really nice grip features. They're all by the same line, so that makes it a little easier for me to not have to adjust between the grip of each one as I go. I also have a really great pair of wire nippers. They are a pretty heavy duty pair. They're really close in at the tip. You can get really close to what you're clipping, and they work really nicely. You just want to make sure that when you're working with wire cutters that you never cut memory wire with your standard wire cutters, because you can actually notch the wire. Be careful of that, because then you're going to have a really big problem. You're basically going to have to replace your pliers because you won't be able to get a clean, even edge anymore. We also have a pair of Crimp Pliers. Now these are a little different. These aren't going to be something that you use every time, but they are necessary. You can see, okay, there we go. You can see that we've got a couple different types of ridges on the pliers, and we'll go over how to use these in a different video, so keep your eyes out for these. That'll be in more of a basic stringing video. Okay, so now that you've got your pliers all good to go, we have a couple other things that we want to have at our workstation. I keep a couple ramekins. You can get these at a restaurant supply store. I think you can find them at like a supermarket on occasion, so they're really great, just little small containers. I keep these for keeping separate beads, or even if I'm working with a lot of wire, I will keep my scrap wire in here. Keeps everything nice and neat. I always have an 18-inch ruler nearby so that I can measure the length of my bracelets and necklaces. And it's also very important so to be able to have enough light to see your little tiny details. So if you're not working in a brightly lit area like I am right now, even this area gets too dark in the evenings, and I love having my little desk lamp. This one's kind of cool because it can actually telescope out and I can be right on top of what I'm working with. So that makes it very handy. Now that you've got your area set up, I hope that you will take the time to make some nice jewelry. Good luck, and thank you for watching.